Hey, just wanted to come here to remind you that the physical version of my comic Lost Hearts is available to order on my Etsy shop right now. The link is in the description, and you can watch this video to find out more information about it. Okay, bye! Hello everybody, it's your pal Xavier here, and welcome back to another chill speed paint video. It's another redraw. Are you getting tired of these yet? I hope not, because this one's actually a little more interesting than just a redraw video. For this one, I was, as you can see here, the picture on the right, you're right, yes, you're right, here is a redraw of a drawing I did a while ago for my character Xavier. There's a little bit of story with this one too, which is why I wanted to redraw it. Basically, it was one of the first drawings I made in Clip Studio Paint, and I remember having a lot of fun figuring out all the brushes and stuff, and I do remember it crashing a couple times, but it was because I accidentally put the file in time-lapse mode, and my computer doesn't like it when I put my Clip Studio files on Canvas mode. It doesn't like it at all. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to redraw it, because now after using Clip Studio Paint for, I believe, almost 2 years now, I have a lot more familiarity with it. I have all the brushes that I like using, and I wanted to see what it looked like now. That, and also the fact that Xavier has gone through some character redesigning, since he's become more of a Honkai Star Rail character, and now kind of just my character. Just mine. It's all mine, no one else's. But this original drawing was also originally made for an art pull challenge, which I participated in years ago, where you use I think it was to use a mood board to create a piece. I'm pretty sure that was the intent behind it. And yeah, I really wanted to redraw it. Truthfully, the actual background and foreground themselves don't look super different. A lot less soft shading, because I use less soft shading and more painterly shading when it comes to the background. But yeah, that doesn't look much different. Xavier himself will obviously look a lot different, so there's that. But like I said before, this isn't just a redraw. I've been really wanting to do something, and you might remember this if you watched my 2023 art video where I talked about my artworks and some of my New Year goals. I want to start making animated illustrations. If you've been on social media before, you might have seen these. It's basically like an illustration, but parts of it are moving, like the hair flowing, or like some sort of like tweening animation. I've seen a lot of artists do tweening. But yeah, I really want to do stuff like that because those look really fun, and I love animating. It's very fun for me to animate, and I especially love frame-by-frame animation, so I thought for this piece that since it is a simpler composition and everything, it would be the perfect one to try out my first ever animated piece. So for this one, the parts that I wanted to move were Xavier's eyes blinking and looking across the book he was reading, and the little flame that's next to him to be flickering. Pretty simple stuff. Only 2 things really moving. Everything else was going to be still. Yeah, pretty simple, all things considered. And yeah, once I was done with the sketching portion, which was really pretty simple, I just had to remember all of Xavier's anatomy and stuff. And then just on to the line art. This year for line art, I really wanted to try and improve it a little bit, make the pressure sensitivity a bit more noticeable and stuff. Because I like artworks where the line art looks really like good, you know. When line art's a little thicker and it looks like very like crispy and nice and like not super clean. I like when line art's a little messier, so that's what I've been trying to do. And you'll notice that I always use, well, most of the time unless I'm doing a painterly style, I'll always use a more hard texture brush, or as I like to say, a hard and crunchy brush. But yeah, I made a note to draw his eye separate from the rest of his face, since that was going to be one of the moving parts, and I didn't want that near the rest of the picture. Then moving on to some hatching shading. Obviously this has a very clear lighting source, being the candlelight, so I didn't really have to pay too much mind to that. And then, yeah, then his eye. Again, his iris I also made separate, but I usually do that in my artworks anyway. And then the base coloring as well. All of this really was like the most simplest step, just getting everything prepped and ready to go. And yeah, I was playing around. Like I said with this one, a big reason why I wanted to redraw it is because Xavier's design had changed. In the original, he had a white dress shirt because that's what his Genshin design had. But for this one, it's the black dress shirt that fades to red. And I made the sleeves a little more flowy. I actually did recently redesign Xavier again to be more of a my style character and also to be a little simpler. And I gave him more flowy sleeves in that as well. And yeah, the chair actually surprisingly ended up looking quite similar to the original picture. It's the chair, it's like his office chair, and then he has his coat on the back. So in the original picture, the coat had a yellow line on it, so you could see that yellow line. But in this one, I believe it's just the two tones of red. And then I was really excited to redraw the books again because I had more of a grasp of how to draw books and pages like that after drawing them for a bit. And I also, in the original, I believe he had a feather and quill. For this one, I just gave him a fountain pen, which makes more sense too. It's like a more, Honkai Star Rail is like more modern and a little more cyberpunk and futuristic than Genshin Impact, being much more fantasy and a little more medieval fantasy, although they have a lot of more advanced technology than you would think over there. But yeah, that the feather and quill match the Genshin vibe. The fountain pen kind of matches the Star Rail vibe a little better, in my opinion. And then yeah, I gave him his teacup placed on the paper again. That's gonna leave a stain probably. And then I gave him a little thing of roses. That wasn't there in the original for some reason, but every picture that I've drawn of Xavier, except for the one on the left, has had some rose in it. So, you know, gotta keep the pattern going. Are they good looking roses? Not really. I kind of drew them a little weirdly, but that's okay. Yeah, I actually have the original palette that I used saved. So I was trying my best to use the same palette because I had the exact same. And then I remembered to give Xavier blush before doing the rest of the shading. That might not sound that good, but for me that's a big accomplishment because I never remember to do that. I also remember to add his makeup, something I also forget to add when drawing characters like this and rendering them. And then, yeah, his eye, even in his original design, I did still give him his like canon design now, I guess. I keep him with the star eye just because it's true to his brand. Originally it was just because he was half Conrian, now he just has that there just because. It's just there. He's actually also in the Miracle universe, so it could also have something to do with his miracle. It could be like what the miracle made his eye look like, because I imagine him being also a miracle holder. Since in Genshin he was a vision wielder. I don't know what he would be in Star Rail, but yeah. And then continuing on with the rendering, again I tried using the same sort of palette I had from the original. I don't think it's the quite same colors I did though, unfortunately. But yeah, playing around with some blending modes and stuff. It's at this point that I did go ahead and get rid of the reference, just because I didn't really need it anymore. And yeah, the shading process around the eye was interesting. The way I shade eyes kind of makes it hard to do animated blinking before, because I've tried this before. It makes it a little hard because you can clearly see like where the shading stops and ends because I didn't shade completely all the way in the back of the eye. So I lowered the opacity of the sclera and pupil just so I could have like a bit more of an understanding like what of the shading would be showing and what wouldn't be. Same thing with the makeup as well. Unfortunately, because of the way I did my layers, I kept all of the shading and everything around the eye on separate layers so that they would blink at the same time as the actual eye itself and it wouldn't look too weird. It ended up being pretty tedious to do this method. You'll see later on why. because I had to like put each individual layer into its own folder and then copy that into the animation layer. It was a bit tricky. But I'm still working on the add glow layers here, making sure his eye bag looks very tired. He's very tired. I actually added the shine above the eye bag lines, the little hatching marks I did for the eyes. Something that I do actually do for other artworks now. And at this point, I've already colored in the line art so we don't have any more black lines. And yeah, again, playing around with the blending modes. I like sometimes instead of just using add glow, I'll use glow dodge, sometimes overlay, stuff like that. And yeah, again, mostly focusing on the shading around the eye being on separate layers. And then now moving on to the actual rendering of the eye. First with the sclera and stuff. Overall, it was not super hard to change the way I render for this one because it was pretty much the same, just slightly more layers. And then the way I render eyes already is pretty separate from each other, so that wasn't super hard to like keep in mind. And then now you see that I got the timeline layer up, so now it's time to start with animating the eye, and this is where it got kind of tedious. I had to make sure everything was on its right layers and then move those over. And then for the line art, I free transformed the eye for a couple of frames to make it a little lower, and then I made the last frame, which is his eye actually closing. And then I had to make it so that it was turning downwards with the rest of the image. And then, yeah, doing the same with the sclera. The main thing was that I had to erase it where the eyelids were sort of closing in. This helps it to not look like weirdly squished. And I also wanted to give his eyes some moving, or his pupils some moving animation, and I just did that with some tweening. So I had it so he would be reading across the book first, and then he would blink, and then he would repeat that, and sort of like a GIF. Yeah, and then it was really tedious having to move each layer frame by frame, but even though it was tedious, I was having fun having it move sort of all on its own, and then get the makeup layer there. It looks like it's going by super fast here, but it took quite a bit of time. But I had a good time with it. I always like doing frame by frame animation more than like tweening or stuff. Well, to be fair, I haven't really figured out tweening as well as I have frame by frame, so I probably would like tweening if I actually knew how to do it well. But yeah, I think at this point I'm finally done with getting the eye animation down. Now I'm adding in the final extra details to Xavier, the final extra highlights and multiply layers. And yeah, playing around with the eye animation more. Now that the eye has been animated, I moved on to the background. Can you tell I'm stalling to animate the flame? Because I'm scared to animate the flame. I had a little add glow layer, little airbrush layer to where I knew the light would be, so I just kept that in mind. Yeah, adding in basic shading, rendering and stuff. The biggest difference between this picture and the original is that in the original it had a lot more soft shaded elements, which looks pretty good. There are a little bit of texture there. I think I found out the rough watercolor brush for this and then just used it everywhere. And it looks pretty good, but because a lot of the times with my backgrounds now I use a more painterly shading, I wanted to implement that more and render the candle nicely. I do actually like how I rendered it in the last one, so I kind of imitated that here. I think it turned out really well. Adding in more rough shading and like more smooth, slight opaque or slight transparent shading and highlights. Not much to say for the background, since it's the foreground since it's pretty much the same. I even used the same chisel brush I remember using for the writings on the paper and book. I just ended up blurring them a little more so they wouldn't be as noticeable as the rest of the picture. And yeah, that was it. Pretty much it for the foreground. The bookshelves I remember taking surprising amount of time. In the original, I kind of used a hack that I learned where you can just add in these lines or paint in these lines, and they'll look like bookshelves, which I think looked pretty good in the original picture. But for this one, I used some Clip Studio paint assets that already have like the books all drawn and everything, and just free transformed them to where they would fit inside the bookshelves. This actually did take quite a while. But I think it would have been a little faster than if I had to hand draw all of them. And the biggest reason why it took forever is because I was insistent on having the books be different colors. So that definitely took a good amount of time, I think, just trying to get the books to be different colors. And then I had to do it all again on the second bookshelf because I like torturing myself, apparently. But yeah, I tried making the books more blurred in the background so they wouldn't be as noticeable. And then, like I said, I moved on to the other bookshelf. There wasn't, the one in the picture didn't have a second bookshelf. It was just a wall. I just decided to do this for some reason. Yippee! And then, yeah, after finishing the second bookshelf, after finishing the second bookshelf and working on some more glow layers, I was coming up closer and closer to having to work on the flame, but I was still stalling a little bit by working on different parts of the drawing and adding in some multiply so you wouldn't see. And then I figured it was finally time for the flame. Now I was struggling figuring out how to draw the flame. At first I wanted to be like really like flickery, almost like how you would see fire in real life. But it was looking really strange and out of place, and I didn't like how it looked. So I deleted all that. I started from the first. I tried to follow some tutorials online, which said that if you made like a little swirly or a little like swirl line, you can figure out what their flame would be. That didn't end up working either. And I tried also erasing the bottom of the flame, since in real life, candlelight flame will have that effect where the bottom doesn't look like it's lit. I wasn't happy with most of these. So I believe what I ended up doing was doing a trick that I usually do when it comes to line art animating. To make it look like each frame is drawn differently, I will redraw the shape over and over, and that's what I did with this flame. I redrawed it, making sure that it didn't look the same throughout, because if it looks the same, it kind of defeats the purpose. I also added in some rendering on each frame, again making it look slightly different, but still similar enough to where the effect would look good. And surprisingly, this ended up working quite well. I also used the smudge tool to make it more smudgy, and I believe this is what I actually did for the original picture too. And then once I finally got that figured out, I tried doing the erasing method again. I don't think I did that in the finished product. I went to town on some add glow and glow dodge layers to make it look all nice and shiny and make it look nice and glowy. It kind of blows out the rendering just slightly, but that's okay. And finally, after all of the things were rendered, I added in the final details, more correction layers and stuff. I actually don't think I used correction layers. I think I just used overlay layers and added in the frame effect around it, going ham on the more add glow and glow dodge layers, and that was pretty much it for this drawing. Yeah, so I know this was a bit more rambly than normal, but this one was really fun to work on. It's my first ever animated illustration, and I really like how it looked. You can see here I am adjusting the frames a little bit so that they all line up. And yeah, that was pretty much it for this drawing process. After the end of the speed paint, I'll show you the final GIF image, a little animated clip, and the final artwork. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, you can check out my other videos. I have other videos featuring this character Xavier if you want to know more about him. And I have other stories that I have told before, including my comic Lost Hearts, which is now available to order on my Etsy shop. All of those links will be found in the description below, along with my other comics that I post on Webtoon and my Instagram. And with that, I hope you all have a good day. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and all that. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!